Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one.
The introduction. A pallor hung over the small town of Cedar Creek, nestling within the shadows of the Appalachian foothill. Until recently, its idyllic landscape had been painted with the colors of simple living children playing in yards dotted with wildflowers, neighbors sharing warm hellos amid the morning fog. Yet the morning of June 12th would mark a sinister shift in this tapestry of tranquility. The sun rose reluctantly, casting a muted light over the crime scene that now bore witness to a chilling disco. Just beyond an overgrown thicket within Cedar Creek's expansive woods, a jogger stumbled upon a body of female, lifeless and cold, lying among the scattered leaves. The unsettling sight sent ripples throughout the community, drawing responders from local law enforcement and creating a sullen procession of onlookers. Sheriff's deputies cordoned off the area, their yellow crime scene tapes snapping in the cool breeze, a stark warning against the curiosity of the townsfolk. The woman was later identified as 31-year-old Alice Harper, the beloved art teacher at Cedar Creek High School. Known for her warm smile and passion for nurturing creativity, her untimely end shook the foundation of a town that prided itself on safety. Who could dare harm someone adored by so many? Amid the gathering dusk, whispers of disbelief and fear emerged, urging the sheriff's department into action. The sense of dread tightened around Cedar Creek like a noose. The peaceful facade had been irrevocably tarnished, leaving behind unanswered questions that jangled like wedding chimes in the ominous silence of the woods. Alice was gone, but whispers of the tragedy lingered ominously over the town. Cedar Creek's charm had faltered, revealing the cracks hidden beneath its surface, and as the investigation began, the community braced itself for the unraveling of a dark truth that would change them forever. The victim, Alice Harper, had always been more than a name on a classroom roster. She was a beacon of light in the lives of her students, a woman whose love for art weaved through the very fabric of Cedar Creek. Every day, she transformed the mundane school walls into a vibrant gallery filled with splashes of paint and youthful masterpieces. Her talent was palpable, but it was her compassion that truly set her apart, the quality that brought students from across the social spectrum into her orbit. At 31, Alice was a portrait of promise. Growing up in Cedar Creek, she had remained deeply connected to her roots, often volunteering at local charities and teaching art classes to underprivileged children at the community center. It was a natural evolution for Alice, whose own formative years had been nurtured by supportive mentors. Her friends would often remark on the way she brought color to others' lives. Worst days, the sister who called just to check in, and the teacher who stayed late to help a struggling student understand an art concept. That was why, when the news broke of her death, the community was left grappling with an inconceivable loss. A candlelight vigil was quickly organized, drawing hundreds to the town square. Flickering lights illuminated tear-streaked faces, each one a testament to the impact Alice had made. The air was thick with grief, whispers of disbelief trailing through the crowd, as stories about Alice painted a life that seemed full, vibrant, and tragically cut short. As reporters circulated, seeking to unearth anything they could about Alice's life, a different kind of shadow began to emerge that hinted at a complexity beneath her glowing exterior. For every story of her kindness, there were murmurings of secrets kept close to the heart, intrigues that hinted at trouble, far removed from the gentle brushstrokes of her teaching. Some spoke of an unreciprocated love, a rumor of a past relationship gone awry, and tensions that simmered beneath the surface. Retracing Alice's steps, in the days leading to her death, would become paramount for detectives, prompting questions that would echo in a town searching for clarity. The vibrant canvas once filled with joy now occupied a void, urging all to seek the truth between the strokes of light. The crime scene. Beneath the sprawling canopy of trees, the crime scene painted a chilling picture. The remnants of a peaceful spring day were interrupted by the arrival of law enforcement, their boots crunchy against the twigs and leaves that blanketed the forest floor. Alice Harper lay still, her once animated spirit diminished to an unsettling silence that hung heavily in the air. The tranquil rustling of branches above did little to assuage the unsettling horror of the sea. Detective John Carter arrived at the scene as sunlight filtered through the treetops, casting elongated shadows by his feet. He greeted the sheriff with a curt nod, eyes fixed on the body. An eerie stillness enveloped the wooded area, the chirping of birds muted by the solemnity of their task. Alice was positioned unnaturally on her back, an upturned palm resting against the cool earth. Dark hair framed her face, tangled with leaves and dirt, her clothing disheveled as if a struggle had taken place. The medical examiner, a bespectacled woman with a stony demeanor, surveyed the body with methodical precision. She noted the bruising around Alice's neck and the faint pink marks that insinuated a violent encounter. The signs were grim. This was no mere accident. As a forensic tech began taking photographs, Detective Carter felt a pit forming in his stomach. Every detail mattered. Every moment spent here could lead them closer to answers or deeper into an unseen abyss. Around them, officers secured the area, scanning for any potential evidence that may have been overlooked. Carter's gaze drifted to a broken branch hanging low above Alice, its jagged edges sharp against the soft hue of the leaves. Had there been a confrontation here, just moments before her life was extinguished? Did the killer lay in wait hidden among the trees before making their move? The woods began to close in on the gathering team, an oppressive weight of uncertainty settling over them. Carter's mind raced with possibilities. Cedar Creek had always seemed so safe, so untouched by the dangers that plagued larger cities. But now, they were knee-deep in a raw wound, and time was slipping by. The investigation would hinge upon the evidence found here, clues that could either lead to a perpetrator or deepen the mystery surrounding Alice's death. As the last rays of sunlight danced through the branches, turning the scene into an otherworldly tableau, Carter felt an urgency pulling at the vibrant teacher of Cedar Creek. Her laughter, her warmth was extinguished, leaving only a frigid reminder that darkness could invade the most unsuspecting corners of one's life. The hunt for justice had begun, and with it came an unsettling realization. They were racing against time in a world where shadows held untold secrets. The early investigation. Back at the Cedar Creek Sheriff's Office, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Charts filled with notes and photographs of Alice Harper adorn the walls, creating a makeshift war room. Detective John Carter and his partner, Officer Lisa Monroe, pored over their preliminary findings, their brow furrowed in concentration. Each detail mattered, each name they wrote down could unlock the door to a suspect. The first step in the investigation began with interviewing Alice's close friends and co-workers. Each account was dissected for clues, hoping to find a crack in Alice's seemingly perfect life. Lisa started with Caroline Jones, Alice's best friend since childhood. Sitting in the interrogation room, Caroline's sorrow washed over her like an ocean wave, crashing down and pulling her struggle to cope into sharp relief. She was so full of life, Caroline said, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. She cared for everyone around her. I can't imagine anyone wanting to hurt her. Lisa's instinct told her there was more beneath the surface. Were there any recent changes in her life? Someone she was worried about? Caroline hesitated, gathering her thoughts. Well, there was Ethan, she finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Alice met him a few months ago, and they hit it off. But things seemed to have soured. She was distant, like she couldn't shake a feeling. The mention of Ethan sparked pages of questions in Lisa's mind. Who was this man that had driven a wedge between Alice and her vibrant spirit? What was the nature of their relationship? Meanwhile, Carter focused on Alice's employment records. Interviews with students revealed mixed emotions. Some spoke about her support, while others referenced strange interaction. A few students whispered of an unsettling tension, of Alice's strict demeanor towards one particular group, leading to a palpable unease within the art room. Carter jotted down student names associated with the discussions: Jenna, Leo, and Danny, a trio who seemed central to Alice's troubles. As he delved deeper into each narrative, he realized they would need to tread carefully. Emotions were raw, and the pieces of Alice's life were fracturing further with every new revelation. Outside, the sun began to set behind the mountains, shrouding the town in a cool dusk as shadows lengthened. The night's chill whispered through the cracks of the office, a fleeting reminder that time was of the essence. With every conversation, they unearthed more questions than answers, and as the early investigation trudged on, it became clear. Unraveling the complexities of Alice's life would be just as essential as tracking down her murderer. The clock ticked ominously, and they were determined to solve this case before Alice faded from memory entirely. The dead ends. As the investigation wore on, Detective Carter's early optimism began to wane. Each day felt like a facade painted over a bleak landscape as they combed through tip after tip, chasing shadows that led nowhere. The trail, once promising with warmth and color, had dulled, leaving only the cold touch of frustration. A week had passed since Alice's death when they received the last set of interviews from her students. Carter and Lisa listened intently, eyes narrowed and spirits heavy. Jenna, a talented young artist, mentioned Ethan with a mix of admiration and anxiety. They were great together, but then there was this fight, she said, wringing her hand. Alice said she needed space, that something felt off. But every path led to a brick wall. Ethan had vanished without a trace in the days following Alice's murder, leaving no response to inquiries. His phone disconnected, no forwarding address. When Carter finally tracked down the apartment he had rented, it was empty, the landlords having had no forwarding information to offer. Further down the rabbit hole, Carter scrutinized the trio of students, for any sign of wrongdoing, but every conversation fizzled into evasive answers and embarrassed looks. None showed signs of direct involvement, and they could only speculate about what happened behind the closed doors of their art classes. It seemed they were left with only vague notions, each dead end a reminder of the mystery they were grappling with. Progress seemed sluggish, and each unanswered question felt like a weight pressing down. Details that once sparked hope turned into disappointments, the shadows tightening around them with every passing moment. A tip from an anonymous source hinted at a potential rivalry between Alice and another teacher. But when they confronted the individual, he flashed a bewildered smile and left them with nothing but confusion and a vague sense of jealousy towards Alice's popularity. As the frustrations mounted, tensions in the office surged. Carter and Lisa argued over tactics, each feeling the pressure of time slipping away. We need to backtrack, find out about Ethan's life before Alice, Lisa suggested angrily, her frustration spilling over. If he's hiding, we're missing something big. Only if we can find someone who can point us in his direction, Carter replied, fingers pinching the bridge of his nose. Otherwise, we're running in circles. As darkness fell like a shroud over Cedar Creek, the unsolved case hung like a specter between them. Alice's image lingered in their minds, her playful laughter and kind spirit contrasted with the grisly reality of her loss. With each passing day, the urgency of justice grew, and the weight of failure threatened to consume them. In the thickening fog of uncertainty, a chilling realization took root. The answers they sought might never come with the clarity they craved, and Alice's story might remain unfinished, forever echoing in a town haunted by her absence. A break in the case. At dawn, the investigation felt increasingly stagnant, a tangled web that Carter and Lisa struggled to unravel. Then, just as despair began to seep into their bones, an unexpected glimmer of hope presented itself. On a Wednesday afternoon, a call came through that would change the course of the case. Lisa sat at her desk, idly flipping through Alice's online presence, reflecting on the vibrant photos of her life carefully curated on social media. The chirp of her phone broke through the monotony, and she instinctively grabbed the receiver. Cedar Creek Sheriff's Office, Officer Monroe speaking. There was urgency in the voice at the other end. I'm Detective Ryan Adams from the City Police Department, the voice informed her. We might have something you need to know. One of your witnesses is in a bit of trouble. The tension in Lisa's muscles coiled tight. What kind of trouble? Jenna Hale, one of Alice's students, was caught with some stolen property camera equipment that didn't belong to her. She claims she found it, but there's more to it than that. Carter instinctively moved closer, tensing as he overheard Lisa's side of the conversation. They had dismissed Jenna as merely surprised and overwhelmed the morning of Alice's death, but now it seemed she might possess critical details they had missed. Minutes later, they arrived at the precinct where Jenna was being held. A sense of urgency thrummed through the air, intermingling with the echoes of distant voices. It was clear the girl was frightened, her eyes darting around the small room, wary and wide. Jenna, Lisa started gently. We know the situation is tough, but we believe if you can help us understand what happened to Alice. Help how? Jenna's voice quaked, and she sank back into the plastic chair. Carter stepped forward, leaning in slightly, his expression earnest. We want to find out the truth about Alice. Any information you can give us might clear things up. But if there's something you're hiding, it could put you in a really bad spot. Whether visible struggle Jenna took a deep breath. I didn't mean to take it. I just thought it would help, she stammered, her eyes welling with tears. Alice, she was scared, talking about someone watching her. I thought I could protect her. The air shifted as these words settled between them. Protecting Alice. Who had threatened her? What I mean? Who was watching her? Carter pressed, excitement mingling with trepidation. I don't know, she admitted, her voice trembling. But Ethan was angry. I saw them fight a few days before she wanted to break things off. He didn't like it. The pieces started falling into a new and jagged alignment. Maybe they had overlooked the importance of that last fight. Where was he after that, Jenna? Lisa urged. I think he went to see some friends in the city, a few guys she mentioned. I overheard her say they were bad news. The urgency of their quest resurfaced, fueling them with newfound energy. This was the breakthrough they'd yearned for, tangible evidence linking Alice's fears to Ethan, and perhaps uncovering those hidden entanglements lurking just beneath the town's surface. As they left the station, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within them. There's a thread to follow now, and for the first time in days, hope sparked again, illuminating the darkened corners of Cedar Creek. They had taken a step forward, but the chase was far from over. And as they plunged back into the heart of the investigation, they could feel that they were inching closer to uncovering the truth behind Alice Harper's tragic story. The suspect, with the flicker of new evidence still fresh in their minds, Carter and Lisa wasted no time in tracking down Ethan Collins. Jane's revelations gnawed at them, offering just enough urgency to push through the bureaucratic hurdles impeding their investigation. As the pair exchanged leads over coffee at a local diner, Carter sensed a momentum building born from desperation and determination. There at the diner, said Ethan worked at Palm Springs Bar and Grill before he moved. Lisa mumbled, circling a name in her notebook. Maybe we should see if anyone there has seen him recently. Carter nodded, already piecing together a plan. Let's split up. I'll head to the bar, and you check in with the friends who moved with him to see if they have any intel. The sweltering summer day wrapped around him like a blanket as Carter made his way to the grill. When he arrived, it was mid-afternoon and the lunch rush had retreated, leaving the interior buzzing softly with idle chatter. He approached the bar, where a burly, middle-aged man polished glasses. The scent of alcohol mingled with the tang of fried food. And looking for Ethan Collins, Carter began, showing his badge. Do you know where I could find him? The bartender raised an eyebrow, bristling slightly. Why are you looking for him? Need to ask him some questions related to Alice Harper's case. The bar fell unnervingly quiet, and Carter noted the disapproving glances exchanged among patrons seated nearby. The bartender's eyes narrowed. Best to leave that kid alone. He's had enough problems without you poking around. Carter's interest peaked. What do you mean? Was he here recently? He's been in and out with different friends. Went a little wild after he and Harper split. Last I heard, he was upstate with some shady characters. You look too much like a cop. You'll scare him away, the bartender warned, pointing toward a side exit. Just then, Carter glanced across the emptiness of the bar to catch the glint of movement. A figure darted from the back, slipping through a side door. Without hesitation, Carter bolted after him, adrenaline surging through his veins. He rounded the corner into the alleyway, heart racing. Just ahead, he spotted Ethan, a wiry figure clad in a navy t-shirt, sprinting away. Ethan, stop. The chase spiraled through the narrow alleys of Cedar Creek, cobblestone beneath his feet, a grave reminder of small-town cornered intrigue. Ethan was surprisingly swift, but Carter held on to the adrenaline of authority. "You can't outrun the truth, Ethan," he shouted, his voice echoing off the brick walls as they turned sharply, ducts of shadows and debris complicating the pursuit. Ethan glanced back momentarily. The panic in his eyes was a telltale sign that this wasn't merely a run-of-the-mill police encounter. They burst onto Kingston Street, where Carter finally tackled him to the ground, a well-timed lunge that sent them both sprawling. "Get off me," Ethan screamed, pushing himself against the pavement until he met Carter's stern gaze. "What do you want?" Carter held him firmly, determination etched on his face. "We need answers, Ethan." "Alice is dead, and you're going to help us find out why." As the sounds of the town faded into the background, he'd cornered the suspect and now had the chance to demand the truth about that final encounter. He could sense the dawning realization that the shadows had shifted once more, and perhaps finally, the answers they sought lay within Ethan Cobb. The trial. The courtroom sat heavy with an air of tension, the oak furnishings polished to an unwelcome sheen. It was as if its very walls were holding their breath, anticipating the sacred drama that was about to unfold. The trial for the murder of Alice Harper marked a watershed moment in the town of Cedar Creek, a place accustomed to simplicity, now catapulted into the spotlight of national news. Detective Carter had found himself back within these hallowed halls, this time as a witness to the evidence that had led to Ethan Collins's arrest. Ethanon's a familiar figure, now seated behind the defendant's desk, appeared thinner, his eyes darting nervously between the judge and the jury, capturing the palpable trepidation that clung to the room. It was his trial, but Alice's spirit lingered over them like an unshakable shadow. The prosecution opened with a powerful statement, outlining the events of that fateful day in June. The assistant district attorney recounted Alice's fear of Ethan, the evidence gathered from witnesses, and the damning testimony of Jenna Hale. Each word fueled the growing sense of urgency, painting Ethan not as a misguided lover, but a volatile figure capable of tragedy. Images of Alice appeared on screens, vibrant and full of life, a stark contrast to the sterile atmosphere of the courtroom. As the defense presented its case, echoes of sympathy rose for Ethan, now framed as a victim of circumstance. The lawyer argued passionately that there was no concrete evidence linking him directly to the crime scene, other than the whispers of a frightful ex-lover. The possibility that someone may have set him up weighed heavily in the room, casting doubts into the minds of jurors trained to seek truth amid chaos. Carter took the stand, gripping a railing tightly as he recounted the urgency of the investigation. The pain etched into the fabric of Cedar Creek. "We found evidence of a struggle," he stated firmly, and Jenna's testimony indicated Ethan's motive to harm Alice after their relationship crumbled. Then, for a brief but telling moment, Ethan's composure quaked as Carter laid out the events preceding Alice's death. The one-spirited defense turned erratic. The prosecution fed off the tension in the air like bees to honey. As the trial progressed through emotional testimonies and stark cross-examinations, the defense attempted to paint a narrative of ambiguity, even bringing in character witnesses' friends who contradicted Jenna's statements, each proclaiming Ethan's decency, working hard to unravel the jury's perceptions. Still, the memory of Alice hung heavy in the room, whispering insistently that something dark had transgressed under the familiar guise of innocent meanders through the tell. With closing arguments nearing, the tension peaked. The jury's faces hardened under the weight of their decision. Days melted into nights as they deliberated. The community, holding its breath outside the courthouse, awaiting what would felt like the inevitable revelation of justice. But justice can be fickle, and the shadows can mislead even the purest intent. Finally, echoes of voices broke the silence. "We have a verdict," the foreperson announced, casting the courtroom into a spell of silence as they approached the judge. The unspoken anxiety settled heavily on everyone's shoulders, each moment stretching taut with anticipation. "Guilty," the foreperson said, the word hanging in the air like a stolen breath shock rippling through the gallery. Alice had received justice, a long-awaited homage to her light extinguished far too soon. As the weight of the verdict settled over the town like simmering embers, Cedar Creek heaved a collective sea. Town, irrevocably changed, marked by shadows but illuminated by the resilience of their community in facing the dark truths hidden among them. With the trial concluding, the healing could begin. But echoes of Alice's laughter would forever linger, a poignant reminder that life, though fragile, is worth fiercely protecting. The aftermath. In the weeks following the verdict, Cedar Creek wore its scars like badges of survival. Yet the specter of Alice Harper's tragic death still cast a long shadow over the community. While the gavel's echo had marked a semblance of closure in the courtroom, the true healing would take longer to achieve. Detective Carter roamed the once familiar streets, a distracted presence in a town rife with emotional threat. Murmurs of Alice filled the air, but they were layered with complexities. Friends and family gathered in remembrance, each person trying to reconcile the vibrant artist they had known with the violence that had claimed her life. Flower memorials cropped up in every corner, the community united in grief yet fragile in the face of lingering question. As he stepped into the local cafe, now painted with murals of Alice's artwork, the warmth of the aroma wrapped around him like a comforting shroud. He approached the small table where Lisa sat, her face illuminated by the soft light of the pendant overhead. "Any word on Jenna?" Carter inquired, taking a seat. "Yeah, she's been doing better, attending counseling and finding ways to cope," Lisa replied, her tone reflective. "But she still carries that weight, you know. The guilty, if only she'd spoken up sooner." Carter nodded, understanding the complexities of surviving trauma. "It's not her fault. She was scared." But for some, fear echoed back with a resounding sting. Many students bore the emotional burden, grappling with the loss of their beloved teacher. The art room, once filled with spirited creativity, now stood silent, suffocated by the absence of Alice's presence. Some students channeled their grief into art, painting tributes of color to honor her memory. Others retreated inward, haunted by guilt and lost opportunities to reach out to Alice in her final days. In the heart of Cedar Creek, the annual community festival approached. This year, it would serve as a tribute to Alice's celebration of her life, rather than a summer remembrance. The outpouring of support was palpable, as friends decorated booths with her artwork and arranged activities her students would have once led. As the festival unfolded under the golden light of autumn, laughter melded with the distant murmur of music, transforming the sorrowful air into something almost fluent. Carter watched as townspeople shared their stories, weaving Alice's legacy into the fabric of Cedar Creek, renewing the spirit of the community she had so dearly loved. Beneath the festive atmosphere, Carter felt a lingering disquiet. He'd seen how fragile life could be, how quickly darkness could creep in. Yet the festival also illuminated resilience, people coming together to face adversity, to bond over shared memories, and to confront their own vulnerabilities. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Carter and Lisa found themselves by a booth adorned with Alice's paintings. She would have loved this, Lisa mused quietly, reflecting on the fervor and joy Alice had brought into the lives around her. Carter nodded, a gentle smile cracking against the grief that had held his heart captive. She's still here, in everything we do. In that moment, surrounded by vibrant colors and the joyous resonance of the community, they began to understand the power of moving forward, not forgetting Alice, but carrying her spirit with them, fighting against the shadows that had sought to consume life's brightness. In the end, the aftermath of the trial was not just marked by the desire for justice, but also by the essential promise of hope, a commitment to protect, celebrate, and nurture the light in life, as fragile as it may be, knowing that the shadows can never fully erase the beauty that exists. Reflection. The air in Cedar Creek had shifted slowly but surely as the community began to pick up the pieces, though the sun continued to rise and fall with an unwavering rhythm. Its light twisted around an ache that would linger long after Alice Harper's story reached its somber conclusion. As autumn faded into winter, Detective Carter found himself reflecting on the complexities of life in Cedar Creek. Each new day brought reminders of Alice's laughter, intertwined with the echo of children's voices, the vibrant colors of her artwork adorning classrooms and community spaces, and the warmth of neighbors coming together in solidarity. Every encounter with those who had cherished Alice was both a reminder of the solace found in memory and a bittersweet taste of the grief still present. The town was healing, yet Carter understood that healing came not from forgetting but from honoring the legacy left behind. One evening, he found himself on a solitary walk through the same woods where the investigation had begun. The quiet rustle of leaves was accompanied by the haunting stillness of the trees, standing sentinel over the place forever marked by tragedy. Closing his eyes, he pictured Alice painting beneath the dappled sunlight a woman who had lived passionately and left the world too soon.